Welcome to Nathan's Armory. I'm Nathan. Tonight we're going to do an episode of Tales of the Sheepdog. And this is one's going to be covering the Clackamas Town Center in Oregon. They had a mass shooting attempt on, I believe, the 11th of December 2012 on a Tuesday. This AR-15 style weapon and the Glock I'm going to show you are both airsoft weapons. They are not real firearms. Okay, so guy goes into the Clackamas Mall and he's carrying one of these. News reports said that afterwards that he shot 2 people, wounded a third, and then took his own life. And the first thing I thought was, wow, guy rolled into a crowded mall with an AR-15 and only got 3 people hit. And I thought, wow, that's really kind of weird. There's got to be a lot more to this story. So turns out, and this isn't really something that they really put out on the national news, they put it out on some local news channels and I had to find it, was what had happened in the mall was the shooter had a malfunction and he was sitting there pulling on his charging handle trying to clear his weapon. Alright? And while that was happening, a concealed carrier who happened to actually be a previous employee of the mall as a security guard got position on him behind a pillar and had him dead to rights with his sight post on the guy's head. The gentleman who got the sights on him, his name was Nick. Nick Meli, M-E-L-I. And he had the shooter, said he had the front sight post on his head. I'm going to link the video of his interview with the local Oregon News. And had the front sight post on his head. When he got position, brought it up, all of a sudden he got tunnel vision, blackness closed in. He was sitting there, kind of unsure. He was just hoping the guy would put the weapon down, had him dead in his sights, and then saw people moving to and fro behind the shooter. And at that point he decided that he couldn't pull the trigger because with his tunnel vision and the people moving behind, he was afraid he was going to hit an innocent bystander. Alright, so the shooter who was messing with his AR looks over, sees him, takes off and goes and jumps behind something. Nick, goes and jumps into better cover, and the next thing Nick knows, the shooter shoots the next shot and takes his own life. So in my opinion, Nick is an awesome sheepdog. He came out, pulled his weapon on the shooter. Shooter then went for the suicide option, and basically the shooter only got 2 kills and 1 wounded, and Nick is what stopped that shooter from continuing on his rampage. So bravo to Nick Meli. Alright, so let's talk about what happened to Nick though. A lot of people get concealed carry licenses, and I have one myself, and they go to the range once a year, once every 2 years. I've been to multiple concealed carry renewal classes. Some of the worst shots I've ever seen in my life are in these classes. These are people that have been carrying for 4 to 8 years that I saw. Just horrible shots. I asked them, hey, when's the last time you were at the range? Oh, last time I qualified for concealed carry. These people have concealed carry weapons to carry concealed, but they don't practice. Now, what Nick had what was called operant conditioning. He knew how to get on a target, aim at it, point right at it, and get ready to fire. That's what you learn at the range. He had that down pat from his own recounting of it. Don't know if he had the second thing that you need, which is called social learning. That's where someone like a drill sergeant or a mentor trains you and lets you know that it's okay for you in this situation to go ahead and fire. And the same with the police force. You'll have an older sergeant train the trainees and say, okay, in the police academy, this is when you pull the trigger. So you need a mentor too. That's very helpful. He may have had a mentor being a security guard. Okay, and the third thing, and this is what I believe he probably didn't have, was the classical conditioning where he's been desensitized and to where he really mentally has come to comfort levels with having to take someone else's life. From listening to him talk and his emotional recounting of it, he really wasn't prepared mentally to take another human life, in my opinion. He was very concerned about the bystanders behind him, which is a very valid concern. You don't want to be hitting people by accident. But you kind of hear it in his voice, he wanted the guy to drop the weapon. He did not want to take the guy's life. And that's probably what caused the tunnel vision and the increased heart rate and all of that goes in. It's the body's response, natural response to not wanting to take a life. So again, if you're going to carry a firearm and be prepared to take a life, you need to take a lot of training. You need to get very comfortable with it to the point where you can draw, aim, and shoot. Once you decide it's time to shoot, you pull it, aim it, shoot it. That is what the military trains, and that's what I suggest you learn if you're going to be a concealed carrier. Otherwise, you're going to be in a position where you're going to have someone dead to rights, and you're going to find that you can't pull the trigger because they're not shooting at you yet. And that could be a big problem because when they do shoot at you, they might hit you on their first shot. So I hope this has been helpful to you. I'm going to have some more Tales of the Sheepdog coming up, and I'm going to do some that are not related to firearms and violence like this, but to some other ways that people have stepped up. So I hope you stay tuned. And again, it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. So if you're a concealed carrier, carry.